You don't look like a burglar. Sounds like a compliment. Are you interested now?
Following is a story of a writer, somebody who wants to be a writer, who's living in London, very busy city, and he takes to following individual people, picking someone out of the crowd, seeing where they go, what they do.
No, I didn't follow women. It wasn't a sex thing. I followed anybody. I just wanted to see where they went, what they did.
I wrote Following at a time when I was living in the middle of London, much like the protagonist, and was amazed how crowded that city is. You walk on the streets and you're just surrounded by people. And I became interested in the idea of what happens if a character were to decide to break down the normal protocols that exist between people. What if he were to just choose somebody at random from the crowd and start investigating their life for no reason? Somewhere around the time I was playing around with this idea, my apartment was actually burgled and broken into. And so I sort of put these two things together to come up with a story for Following.
See? Nobody home.
Emma, Chris, and I, and most of the people that worked on the film, and Lucy as well, were all students at University College London.
Yes, I was studying English literature. I think I spent most of my time making films, actually.
We'd made a couple of short films sort of in using the production methodology that we wound up employing in this.
Ian showed me the script, and it was sort of like, I don't understand this in the slightest, because the fractured timeline was already there in the script that he presented, and I had to take it apart and put it back together in chronological order so that I had any idea of my character arc.
Money's in the safe. Probably.
Because the film expands outwards in all directions at once, if you like. You get the headline version of the film, you know, man bites dog, whatever, and then each scene is sort of expanding the story in terms of filling in the gaps between the events you've already seen.
Yeah.
And the thinking behind that is if we ran out of money halfway through, we'd have a film. A no-budget film in the true sense. We got it to our first festival. We spent about $6,000 on the entire movie.
You could go to a movie theater and go and see Clerks.
If title dictated my behavior as a clerk serving the public, I wouldn't be allowed to spit water at that guy. But I did.
Or go and see El Mariachi.
I've always wanted to be a mariachi.
It wasn't impossible to do something on that scale, have it distributed, have it be a real film.
Take it away. Show them what they had.
A group of our friends getting together each Saturday to shoot about 15 minutes worth of footage. We did that for about a year and put the thing together that way.
4 or 5 months to start with, but yeah, it soon became apparent that we were never going to be able to hit that.
The entire film's made of first takes or second takes, primarily first takes. So we would work the scenes, just rehearse them so that they knew each scene like a stage play. And my feeling was, well, when an actor works on stage, there's no second take, they just do it and you get through it. And the only thing we spent any money on at all was buying the film stock and processing it. Because all the props, all the things, they're all just our things. You know, we would go into a location, you know, no permits, just favors, and, you know, everybody just doing it sort of for fun. A lot of the film was shot in my parents' house. That's where Jerry actually lived. That is actually his flat. That's all his stuff.
Not much recollection. It's a bit personal.
What do you mean?
Whereas it's the kind of stuff that you play to your dinner party guests to fill in the gaps of conversation.
It's actually the typewriter that I used to write the script on.
You know, the actors didn't have costumes. They had to figure out what they were going to wear themselves and bring it to set.
That was my dad's wedding suit that I wore.
We didn't use guns, we used a hammer because the guns that we could afford would always look a bit rubbish.
When you can't afford lights, or you don't want to take the time to light, and you want to let the actors have a bit of freedom, you know, the best way to do that is to have a couple of big windows and get them to stand next to the windows. Yeah. So there's a lot of people standing by windows in the film. But funnily enough, if you watch The Prestige, you'll see a lot of the same kind of tricks.
You're welcome. Sound really is the hardest thing for a no-budget film, you know, to really try and, you know, compete with the type of filmmaking and entertainment that people are used to, because they're used to watching very polished presentations. If we started with the first scene in a very controlled environment with two people just talking where we knew we could get good sound. You could begin the film in such a way that people weren't immediately alienated by the quality of the sound. It would sound pretty good for the first couple of minutes, and then by the time people realize, just how cheap this film is and how bad it sounds, they're already into the story.
After a while, I spotted the dangers. I'd become hooked. I had to start making up rules to just try and keep it under control.
I think what Following represents is kind of the peak of what I was able to do on my own or just with friends.
I miss an enormous amount about those days. There's the spontaneity that you're able to achieve shooting a film in that way, where on most shooting days, the cast and crew and all the equipment could fit into one London taxi. If you write the script knowing that you're going to have those limitations, then I think it becomes freedom.
We had no idea what it was going to become, or that Chris might actually become quite successful. And now it's apparent that he really did know what he was doing.
To me, it was interesting that something you learned, on a tiny film was absolutely essential to this enormous film that we then did.
It's making films with what you have, which are I think, are really important lessons that come out of Following.